Hey Eagles fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into the Eagles Report, and today, let's take a look at the top 5 most likely trade targets for the Philadelphia Eagles, as we are just hours away, depending on when you watch this video. Maybe it's already passed, but the NFL trade deadline is at hand, and the Eagles, all the reports are saying, they are going to be very, very active and will most likely make a deal. So I went ahead and broke it down, the top 5 players the Eagles could be trading for. Before we do it though, in just 2 weeks of this channel, already at 400 subscribers. Can we get to 500 by the end of this week? It takes 2 seconds to subscribe. And again, we're building some great content here. The more subscribers we have, the more content we can do. So please go ahead and subscribe to the channel right now. Give it a thumbs up and also comment down below. Let's jump into starting with number 5 of the 5 most likely players the Eagles could trade for. Now, number 5 is going to be Von Miller. I know a lot of people will say this is very unlikely. That is why it is number 5. Now, I will say this. Pro Football Focus's Mike Florio said the Eagles are going to do some crazy things at the deadline. Could Von Miller be one of those crazy moves, if not the only crazy move here, as he is the least likely? But also, the reports are that Denver might be looking to go ahead and trade him, as they are going to be sellers at the trade deadline as they keep on losing. When John Elway was asked a couple weeks ago, I think it was like a week ago, if Von Miller would not be tradable, if he'd be untouchable, he did not rule out trading Miller for the right price. We know the Eagles have been willing to offer first-round draft picks. They've already offered at least one for Jalen Ramsey, and they offered at least one for Patrick Peterson. Could it take a first-rounder to get Von Miller, the outside linebacker / pass rusher, out of Denver? Would he fit in the Eagles' schemes? These are questions that will be answered here very, very soon, but I wanted to throw Von Miller in there. He's the least likely. It's why he's at number 5, but he could bolster an Eagles pass rush, which did well against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, but also could still use some help, as Derek Barnett and Brandon Graham have definitely been up and down so far this season. So number 5 comes in with the Denver pass rusher Von Miller. It's our least likely. Question for you guys, though. Would you give up 2 first-rounders for Von Miller? Would you give up 1 first-rounder for Von Miller? If you like the idea of trading for Von Miller, let me know about it. Comment down below. Also, going to be doing answering all of your questions and all the comments in a video later this week. We're going to do this every single week here in the Eagles Report. Use the hashtag Eagles and ask a question, and I'll answer it probably later on this week in a questionnaire video. So go ahead and get your questions in. I'll answer them. Number 4 here. How about Devante Parker, the wide receiver from Miami? We know Miami is obviously open for businesses. Anyone could be traded right now out of the Dolphins. And Devante Parker has always been a little iffy. Kenny Stills didn't really like being there. Parker's been up and down in his love for Miami as well. He's averaging 15.8 yards per catch this season, even on a down year, as the Dolphins, of course, are one of the few teams without a win so far this season. But the big thing about Devante Parker, which is different from other players on this list, he still has 2 years left on his deal. He has this year and 2020, so the Eagles would have him locked down for the foreseeable future. We know the Eagles need help at wide receiver. Nelson Aguilar, Mac Hollins, and even the rookie Arcega-Whiteside has basically done nothing in the receiving area right now with the receiving core. Yes, Alshon's good, Goddard and Ertz are fine, but with Desean Jackson out, and we don't know when he's going to be returning, the Eagles might be trying to add another receiver, and Devante Parker might be an option there. As again, 2 years left on the deal. He's a good player, averaging 15.8 yards per catch. This is a very likely option for the Eagles if they want to address the receiver position, because he would not cost that much. Number 3 on this list, Robbie Anderson, the deep threat for the New York Jets. The Jets lost again. That means they will be open for business at the trade deadline. And Joe Douglas, formerly working for the Eagles, is the Jets GM. So there could be a connection there, AFC to NFC. This trade could be very, very likely, and multiple sources have reported the Eagles' interest in the wide receiver, Robbie Anderson. Only 26, and like I said, the Eagles have lacked a deep threat without Desean Jackson. And again, there's no indication when Desean Jackson could return. Could be next week against the Bears, or it could be weeks from now. He might not even return. That's still a possibility that people don't want to talk about, but it's very, very true. So could they try and add a deep threat? We saw what they did when they had a deep threat in Desean Jackson against the Washington Redskins. So this could make a lot of sense from an offensive personnel standpoint, because Alshon Jeffrey seems to play a lot better, Zach Ertz seems to play a lot better, and definitely Carson Wentz whenever they have a deep ball to stretch the middle of the field, even the outsides as well. Robbie Anderson, I put him at 3. He could be as high as 1, though. I would say, even though he's at 3 here, this is the most likely weapon that you could see the Eagles trade for would come the NFL trade deadline, depending on when you watch this video, in a couple of hours, a couple of days, or it might have already passed. So was I right? I don't know. We'll see. Which wide receiver would you rather trade for? Robbie Anderson or Devante Parker if you had to pick? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. All right, let's get this into our top two, and these both are going to be corners, starting with Patrick Peterson. Yes, we know the Eagles have already made an offer. They offered a first-round draft pick and the wide receiver Nelson Aguilar, but the Cardinals declined, as the Cardinals, they were 3-1. Now, they got blown out by the Saints on Sunday, which maybe will all help them be a couple more, maybe be a little more sellers at the NFL trade deadline. We know the Eagles want him. They've wanted him in the past, not just this year, but in the past years as well. But the Cardinals have never really wanted to get rid of him. Wonder what it would take, because a first and Aguilar wouldn't do it. They probably want 2 firsts, especially with the Jalen Ramsey market. Are the Eagles willing to give that up? We will see, but we know the Eagles want help at cornerback, although Ramsey and Darby are back and they played better, at least against Buffalo, so we'll see if the Eagles are still heavy on the cornerback position, but we know before the Bills game, the Eagles were very interested in cheering up the secondary, including making an offer already for Patrick Peterson. They might up it and put this one as a potential at number 2 on our top 5 list for Eagle potential trades. Number 1, and this is the one I've been clamoring for a while here in the Eagles report. To me, it makes the most sense. Chris Harris Jr., the cornerback out of Denver. As we know, again, Denver are going to be sellers. They've lost again. And Chris Harris would cost less than Patrick Peterson. Now, would it be a 3rd-round draft pick, a 2nd-round draft pick, a 5th-round draft pick? No one really knows, but we know the Eagles have probably made a phone call at least to Denver to try and figure out, see what John Elway has in mind. The question again now, do you need to go wide receiver, and do we bump Robbie Anderson up on this list to number 1, or do they want to stay in the secondary and continue to bolster what has been very, very weak cornerback position for the Eagles the past couple of years and bring in Chris Harris Jr.? Any sort of help, especially him, would be extremely helpful right now for Philadelphia as they're about to take on the Bears. They have the Patriots coming up on this schedule. It's not going to be easy. Seattle is later on in the year, so we know they want to bolster what was the 24th or 27th best pass defense in the NFL. It could use a lot of help. There you go. There's our top 5 list. Miller, Parker, Robbie Anderson, Patrick Peterson, and Chris Harris Jr. But there are some other names that didn't make the list that could very well happen as well. Let's go for the honorable mentions here, and you'll see them up on the screen. Let's go with the cornerback, Desmond Trufant from Atlanta. Atlanta is 1-7. They are absolutely sellers at the trade deadline. Trufant is not as good as Peterson or Chris Harris, but he would be cheaper, so that's an option there for the Eagles. How about the Bengals defensive tackle Geno Atkins? The Bengals obviously are winless and will definitely wanting to be sellers. Jets defensive tackle Leonard Williams. The Jets have said they don't want to trade him, but when you're 2-6, whatever the Jets are, anyone is basically tradable. Throw Leonard Williams on our honorable mentions. The Bengals have said they do not want to trade wide receiver A.J. Green, but again, they're 0-6, so we'll put A.J. Green on there as well, as he still probably has a lot of game left in, and that'd be very fun. A.J. and Alshon on the outside could be very, very interesting, and I don't think he would cost that much because, wide receivers aren't exactly, you're not going to give it 2 first-rounders for A.J. Green. Maybe a second, I think, would make a lot of sense for the Eagles here. And finally, Bengals again, defensive end Carlos Dunlap could be another option with the Eagles trying to bolster that pass rush. That's why I threw Von Miller on the list, because I think the Eagles' pass rush has struggled a lot this year. It's gotten better, but with Malik Jackson out and then recently Tim Jernigan going down, I know that's D-tackle, but that definitely affects the push of the defensive line. They would love to get another pass rusher into the rotation to kind of spell Barnett and spell Brandon Graham as well, especially as they get into November and they get into some of these very good teams where you need to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. There we go. How about that? What name, if you could get anybody from the guys I've listed or honorable mentions, top 5, who do you guys want the Eagles to trade for? Let me know in the comments section down below. I'm very curious to gauge the fan base and where we are at. And as always, hashtag Eagles. Get a question in down below. I'll answer it in a video later on this week. Finally, I just want to ask one more time, and I appreciate you guys a lot for building this channel. We've gotten a ton of subscribers and great feedback over the first couple of weeks. If you like the channel, you like the videos, a lot more where this is coming from, give the channel a subscribe. We get to 500 at the end of the week. That would be huge. All the time we have for today here on the Eagles Report. I'm Thomas Mott. We sign off. Enjoy the rest of your day.